I asked you in the week for three things that you loved and hated about this World Cup so far. Because obviously this is just a little bit of a catch-up podcast, really, isn't it? Over the month that we haven't been, well, we've been AWOL essentially, is what's happened. And we'll start positively, and we'll start with the three things that we've loved this World Cup. I would imagine. Well, I don't know whether we might have three separate things. I don't know, but. Go for it. Open your account, Joe, with your first one that you've loved about this World Cup.
Yeah, we mentioned before we kind of went on air that this was actually quite difficult. So I started off quite broad, and then I had to choose things that were a lot more specific to certain games because I was finding it tough.
Yes.
But this one has literally just been accentuated as we speak. Wins for the Afghanistan and Netherlands. Afghanistan have just won their third game against Sri Lanka, beating obviously us and Pakistan. And I don't know, obviously they hadn't won a game in Men's World Cup, 50 over World Cup, and they've now won 3. So celebrating that, I feel like, is brilliant. And as you mentioned earlier, Netherlands have put in some cracking performances. And they've got themselves a couple of wins as well, I believe. So, yeah, seeing those kind of lesser nations on a big stage winning games, that's great.
Yeah. This might not shock you, but that was one of my three. The upsets, in inverted commas, was one of my three. And yeah, to think that there's five wins between Afghanistan and the Netherlands. The Netherlands, of course, had to qualify for the World Cup, came second to Sri Lanka, didn't they, down in Zimbabwe. I think it's a shame, the fact that it's only a 10-team World Cup. That conversation's been had before. But yeah, those two teams really kind of punching well above their weight, respectfully. Netherlands still an associate nation. Afghanistan a full member nation now, aren't they? But I mean, they don't really play a great deal of international cricket compared to some of the other countries around the world. And hopefully with the 2024 T20 World Cup, where I think there's 24 teams in that T20 World Cup next year over in the States and in the Caribbean, we're going to see more upsets like this. I'm sure Namibia will be there. I think Ireland and Scotland have already qualified. Papua New Guinea, countries like that. And I mean, that's only going to be good. It's only going to be good for cricket to see teams like that actually kind of... Well, actually, no, just to see the sport grow. Let's be honest, it's not teams like that. It's just nice to see kind of cricket being played outside of like a top 6.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's only good for spectators and just sport in general. Seeing upsets is something that's why we all love it, isn't it? Because you know that you can watch a game and nothing is necessarily guaranteed. What's your second thing that you've loved?
My second one, controversially maybe, is Virat Kohli in a run chase. That guy, there is nobody in the world that does it quite like Virat Kohli when the chips are down. I've just looked at his number. I think he's the 6th leading run scorer. He's got 350 runs. I can only really remember him batting in the first innings against England when he got cleaned up for a Globe. So I'm just going to say that all 350 of those came in chasing innings with 100. The bloke, I don't know, like he's one of those guys that you'd hate to play against him, wouldn't you? But if he's on your team, he'd be the first bloke that you'd want on your team sheet. He'd be the guy that you'd hate as an opposition fan, which a lot of people do. But just imagine like the chips are down and you watch Virat Kohli walk down the steps in an ODI run chase. You just go, it's easy this, lads, isn't it? Feet up on the sofa, grab the popcorn, chill out, no stress, no pressure, all the while that Virat's there. The bloke is so good. He's got, how many ODI runs has he got now? Something ridiculous, isn't he? 13,500 or something mental like that. What a player. And I think because he is a bit of a pantomime villain, I don't think he gets the love and appreciation outside of India than what he actually deserves, and he's absolutely dynamite.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's like death taxes and Kohli scoring runs in chases, isn't it? And yeah, prior to his innings against England, they'd only chased in all their other games, in the other 5 games. So yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, 3 of like 9, 10, 11 batters hadn't even faced a ball in this World Cup until they faced England. So I mean, that was quite something. It was his first ever duck as well.
Was it?
So,
Good for us.
in World Cup cricket, apparently. I was listening to that. But
That's a trophy we can take home.
It's very small wins, isn't it? I think.
And then batting for 100 at the end of his innings just for shits and giggles. Twice. Brilliant. Sign me up for that. Give me that kind of level of shithousery. I'm all for it. Anyway, what's your second?
In a similar vein that you've picked someone out for their batting performance, I've done the same, and I've gone for Glenn Maxwell's 40 ball ton.
Yeah,
I was actually watching that when it was like I've not watched that much of the tournament like live, to be honest. Like, not considering how much of a badger and a loser I am, but I was watching that when he was absolutely going off, hitting the ball all over the place, and obviously. Yeah, those poor Netherlands bowlers on the receiving end of it, I felt for them a bit at times. But in the 49th over, I was sat there and he was on like 80. I was like, he's going to get 100. I was like, Mum, he's going to get 100. And then Simon Doull was like, he could get 100 here. 2 minutes later, bosh. It was pretty ridiculous. I mean, considering I think the week before when Aidan Markram had like broken the record for like quickest World Cup 100, it was like 49 balls, which obviously... pretty ridiculous, and then he goes and does it in 40 balls when he didn't really feel like he had an impact in the World Cup so far, and then he goes and does that. The reverse scoop for 6 over like backward point, filth.
Yeah, that shot alone could make a top 3, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Rinse and repeat.
I think you are right, though. Like, he hadn't really announced himself. And some people being critical, as much as we've just spoken up the Netherlands, could say, well, it's only against the Netherlands. But, like, there's a reason why those things don't happen very often. It doesn't matter who it's against. And that's the Glenn Maxwell that Australia have picked and hoped that they were going to get. So, I mean, the fact they've added Travis Head back into that team, like, fresh off a broken hand, if Maxwell's in a bit of form, Zampa's leading the wicket takers. Stark hasn't been brilliant, but I'm sure something will be figured out for Mitch Stark in between. We'll find form on Sunday, let's be honest. But like they do look scarily dangerous at the moment, and I don't like it much. But yeah, it's a good shout. It's a great shout as the number 2. What about your third thing that you've loved from this World Cup?
Yeah, when I was diving into the specifics, I wrote a couple of things down, but I reckon I'm gonna have to go with another specific incident that I just thought was quite funny. Yeah. And it was Pakistan against South Africa, and Markram walked out of his crease like Bairstow did, and then Rizwan's gone to throw it back to the bowler, but he's hit the stumps, and then he's like joker peeled, and it was just quite funny because he was he was just really light-hearted, and like Rizwan was just playing funny guy. Obviously, he didn't mean anything of it. I just thought that was quite ironic. Yeah. Quite enjoyed that. Yeah, what was yours?
It's a great number 3. I think it's about time that we stop talking about that Carey Bairstow incident now. As much as Stuart Broad needs something to do at the moment, but going on a podcast and still talking about it, I don't really think it's needed anymore. My number 3 is Reece Topley. Actually, I know we spoke about him. We obviously the fact that he's quite injury prone, but he's only played 3 matches in this World Cup before he's had to go home, and he's got 8 wickets. Zampa's played 6 and he's got 16. So by my maths, if Reece Topley had played 6 matches, Reece Topley would also have 16 wickets in this World Cup. England would probably still be bottom of the league, and that's completely irrelevant. But he's the one guy really that I would say that I've looked at this England team and gone, yeah, you know what? Like you've stepped up here when we've needed you. You've bowled your guts out. We've got exactly what I wanted and what I expected from Reece Topley, and kind of showed the world of how good you actually are when obviously things are going your way and you can get yourself on a cricket field. So yeah, he's my number 3.